Thanks for tuning in to some more basketball coverage on Proline TV. I'm your host, Greg DePalma, as we get you ready for another weekend in college basketball. And we have a big game also tonight. So I busted out my team's colors here, and we'll get into that game as well as some of the key games I have some interest in on Saturday. We're going to start off, though, first of all, with futures. So let's do that. I have one team that I'm going to add to my future portfolio this season. And that is, as you can see, Iowa State sitting there at about 18-1, give or take, depending on where you go to look for some odds. But I think those are pretty good odds as far as I could tell. So I think that's a good enough reason right now to take advantage of it. You know, they've had a few slip ups lately, which is the reason why it's gone up to 18-1. And that's also a reason why I believe it's a good time to go with the Cyclones, because it's possible I think more likely that it's the highest you're going to see their odds the rest of the season. And that's what all future wagering is about, value. What I like about Iowa State, 3 returning starters from last year, which is from a 25-win team, very unusual in today's day and age of the portal and so forth. They had a really good transfer. This kid from Virginia, really good freshman added to the team as well. They've had some good wins. They've beaten Purdue. They've beaten St. John's. I think they're actually I really believe they're a championship caliber team. I felt that in the beginning of the season, before the season began. And they started off with a great offseason or, non-conference schedule and so forth. And I think that really helped them out. Yes, if they had some poor games here and there, most teams are going to go through that during a season. They're no stranger to it. So I'm going to add them to the list. And that puts, let's see, I only have, Michigan, Purdue, Duke, and Iowa State. So I just have 4 teams who are, top contenders for the title in my future portfolio. All the others, Michigan State, Iowa, Texas Tech, Louisville, St. John's, Nebraska, UCLA, and Vanderbilt, those are all highly valued options. Of course, Iowa, it's more about the Final Four. But if I'm going to take you for the Final Four, I'm definitely going to throw a few bucks on to win a championship. I think Nebraska proved how capable they are and how undervalued they have been. I mean, for me to be able to you could still get Nebraska over 30-1 right now. I mean, didn't they prove against Michigan a few nights ago that this is one right now? They are playing like one of the better teams in the nation. Now, I get it. It's Nebraska, but that's all it is right now. This is not a team that is bereft of talent. They have, Fred Hoiberg, it's like, well, all of a sudden he can coach. I mean, he's always been a good coach. Now he's got good players. So, look, I really feel confident that Nebraska is making a run. Now, why I think college basketball futures are so important, maybe even more so than just about any futures that I put together in sports, is due to the fact that you don't know until the brackets come out exactly what is going to happen. Now, it is blind. You could say that and say, well, isn't that a negative? But I look at it as a positive, because the odds are going to change a little bit, or I should even say in some circumstances dramatically, between now and then once we start getting into where everybody's paying attention. We're getting into March. Okay, we're only about 30 days away. So we get we are 30 days away. We get into March, and then the entire gambling sphere pays attention. There's still some football residue. But right now, which is why I think you can take advantage. But the closer we get to March, especially when we hit March, then you've got the conference tourneys. And then all of a sudden, especially if some of these teams, Michigan State, what if Michigan State beats Michigan tonight? I think it's possible Michigan State's odds could be 20-1 or less. I'm still shocked that you can get in the 30s, because you can with Michigan State. Now, the same thing with Nebraska. If they win the Big Ten tournament, if Vandy wins the SEC tournament, if St. John's wins the Big East tournament, right now, the only team I'm disappointed in out of all of these teams that I put money on so far, I shouldn't even say disappointed, but I really was hoping for more, was just the other night against Duke, was Louisville. I really expected, with Mikael Brown back, that they were going to give Duke something, and they didn't. So that was a little bit surprising, but it's also not the last time a team will go into Cameron Indoor and get their asses beat. So it is what it is. They still have a couple of, a little bit more, month, half, 6 weeks to get it going. And when Mikael Brown's been out for about 10 games, like he was, you got to get back into the swing of things. So I'm willing to give him a mulligan as far as that's concerned. Keep in mind, if you're thinking of taking Michigan because you've noticed that they've gone from, I think they were a high or a low of about plus a little over 3-1. Now they're 5-1. Matter of fact, I'll put it up on the screen. Okay, so Arizona is the hot team right now, and they should be. They're playing great basketball. They had the big win at BYU. They almost won get away, but they had the big win, which is really showing that they're for real. But 4-1 for Arizona. We talked about them on our first show that, yes, we expect Arizona to be a better team even this year than they've been last year and the year before. They're really starting to come into their own with this staff. The problem is just being able to do it when you don't have like one major player on that team that everybody's afraid of. They're taking a look at their team. They're a pretty balanced team, and we know how well coached they are, of course, and that's the whole idea too. It's like I said, it's really tough to take over a program like Arizona and not have some pressure on you. Tommy Lloyd, though, really picked it up right away, as we know, and did a tremendous job. But the problem has been in the tournament. But now, again, they are making some headway. That's what we felt. Hey, this Final Four caliber team this year, if all goes well. But the problem is, if you look at it, half of their rotation, they have an 8-man rotation, and that's it. They're not very deep, but they have an 8-man rotation, and half are freshmen. They only got 2 seniors. On top of that, like I said, they do not have like a superstar caliber player. Like at Michigan, for instance, this is why I completely feel Michigan is a better pick over Arizona. But with Michigan, I mean, you're talking about Merez Johnson from Illinois. You're talking about Lindeborg from UAB. Those are two. I mean, even Cadeau, the point guard, is a guy that can handle things. I know he's not the premier scorer I'm looking for, but they got 2 guys. They got 2 guys, and they got guys that have were there last year with Dusty May that can also come in clutch situations. But they have a couple of big guys that they can go to. I look at Arizona, and I just don't see that. They do not have that guy now look, they've got like 7 of their 8 rotation players that average over 9 points a game, which is why they are really good, very well balanced, but they have to avoid injuries. Like I said, they're not very deep. And when they get to the tournament, when it's tournament time, and they're going to come up with a couple of big games, like they're going to have to, where they're going to need some big shots by specific players. Hey, who's the guy? Who's that guy that's going to put the dagger on the opposing team? I don't know if they have that guy. Maybe they do. I haven't seen it yet, but that's also because of the fact that they haven't been in a lot of these situations since they've been a really good team so far. The other thing too is it's not like their schedule has been monster. Matter of fact, let's see. Who have they beaten so far? They've had some good non-conference wins, no question. They have really, I'd say, one, which would be defining win. That was the win over UConn earlier this year. They've got good, solid wins over Alabama and UCLA. But that UConn win, that's the win that you really have to put up there and say, okay. And then going to BYU and winning the way that they did, that shows you, like I said, Arizona is for real. We'll see whether or not they're for real or not come tournament time. But the whole idea here is they're 4-1 to win the national championship. And we're not even into February. Don't even think about it. I even said when Michigan was 3-1 or 4-1, even now at 5-1, no way. There's no value there. If you missed the boat on both Michigan and Arizona at the time, you do not touch them right now. What you can hope for, say with Michigan, is if they lose tonight, maybe those odds go to 6-1. You might want to take a look at that. You might want to just be patient because it's too low. Because here's the deal. I mean, what's Michigan going to be? What's the big difference going to be between now and when the tournament begins? Do you think there's going to be that big of a difference now? It could still be 5-1. It could be 4-1, right? Hey, maybe they lose one more game the rest of the way and they're 4-1. Well, did you really lose a lot from 5 to 4-1? Therefore, be patient because there could be an injury. Maybe they go through a bad spell, which I just said most teams do during the course of the season, especially depending on their schedule. I think you need to wait. Definitely wait on Arizona as well. Look, when we took Duke a few weeks ago, I jumped all over them because I couldn't believe that I was still getting 13, 14-1. So now they're at a position where it's like, okay, maybe because look, they're going to keep winning games because the ACC is still not very tough overall. So you're at the point right now. If you really believe in Duke, you better take them now. You better take them now because I don't see how they're going to have the losing streak, the 2 or 3 out of 5 or something like that with that conference schedule. That's going to put them in bad shape. Houston, they're 11-1 because of name recognition. That's it. Are they just like Florida? Where's Florida? Florida is 22-1. They are both quality basketball teams this season. I've made money on both of these teams. They've been disrespected in a few games. There've been other few games where they've shown up when I expected them to. I think the Houston-Baylor game, I thought that line was a joke. Houston was like a 2-point road favorite at Baylor. I mean, what are you kidding me? And in Florida, remember we had them, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago against Vandy. And that one was more of because we felt they were catching Vandy at the right time because Florida was playing the best basketball of the year. So Florida, Houston, really good teams, very well coached. They're going to be dangerous in the tournament. But are they going to win the national championship? I think a lot of that will depend on the bracket. I think I give Houston a better chance, but I don't think Houston is double the money better than Florida at all. No way. I'd put both of these teams at 15 or 20-1. No way should Houston be 11-1. But like I said, I think that's just respect and recognition. UConn, because they're in the Big East, I just don't know how good they are. I really don't. They're going to be good. They're well coached. They've got talent. The problem is, if you just even look at it, I think they've lost like 6-7 straight spreads. And that is not just because they're favored by 20 and win by 18. It's because if you look at some of the games they're playing against some of these mediocre Big East teams, they're not putting them away the way they should, or that they would have a couple of years ago. So are they better than last year? Yes. But have they shown me yet that they're going to be anywhere near dangerous that they were when they were back-to-back champs? No. It's just they're not that type of team. They were just loaded with depth, and they were just monster. They were a monster team for those 2 years. Right now, they're just another good team. But again, the Big East is see. Here's the thing that I think is funny. UConn is 12-1, right? Well, I shouldn't say funny. I should just say this is what you should take advantage of. UConn's 12-1. Well, who is the second best team in the Big East in my mind? St. John's, 90-1. What are you kidding me? St. John's 90-1 and UConn is 12-1. Well, of course. Why is St. John's 90-1? Because they got off to such a bad start. And it's just the entire non-conference schedule was disappointing. But who's starting to play better now? And this is why we talked about them a few weeks ago on our first show about we love the future. It was great. Now, that was just before they started to put together a little bit of a streak. And we said, let's take them now, because if this is the beginning of them getting on a roll, that's why we want to grab them now. And what I'm surprised about is that they did get on a roll, and yet they're still sitting there at 90-1. I mean, that number has not changed. Let me just see here. Let's see here. Yeah, let me pop up their schedule. Right around the time that we started taking them. Let's see. I think it was, yeah. Well, let's just throw it onto the screen here. All right. Let's see. It was probably, say they beat Butler. That was it. They beat Butler. They crushed Creighton, and then they crushed Marquette. That was that. This was the time right here. I think we did our show just before this game, or just after. I can't remember. I think it was just before. I think we did it on the 16th. Yes, 16th, because we had this game, and this was like a 2-point spread, 1-point spread. I think Villanova might have been the favorite. It was 1 or 2. I don't know which way. And then they won this game. And this was like the best of Villanova. Villanova was playing like really good at the time. And it was about, are they for real? And we talked about, look, this isn't their year. Willard's a good coach, but next year will be Villanova's year. And so this was it. Now, look, I had no idea. I'm not, I try to be, as you know, by the thumbnail. But yeah, we try to be prophets here. But the fact is that what if they lost to Villanova and then lost 2 out of 3? Well, I guess that future wager wasn't a good idea. But just based on what we knew about them before the season began and what we know about their coach, that it made a lot of sense, especially now in today's day and age of the portal, and all these teams are like 80% new. And some of them are dealing with different systems too, that you have no idea. We never know when the season begins now, which teams are going to get off to fast starts or which teams are going to need some time to get the chemistry going. Well, I thought, and I still feel, that it made more sense that, okay, this is just too good of a team based on what we thought about them before the season began to just think that they're not going to put a run together, especially in the Big East, because it's down this year. And sure enough, this was the game that kicked it off. I think that, what would that put them on a 3-game win streak at the time? Then they beat Seton Hall. Then they beat Xavier. Then they crushed Butler, and they're still 90-1. I mean, they're playing their best basketball of the year, and you're still getting 90-1. So take advantage of that if you can. I would, obviously. All right, so here's the game we're waiting for. This is the one, a week from tonight. So tonight it's Michigan State. Next week it's UConn and St. John's. What do you think the odds are going to be in this game? Now, unless St. John's pulls a Michigan State and goes to overtime with the Paul, like, I can't believe Michigan State almost lost to Rutgers, and does the look-ahead game, because that's what that was for Michigan State. So unless that happens, let's say they dispose of DePaul pretty easily, what do we think this line is going to be? Well, UConn will be favorite, of course, but what will it be? Remember, they're 12-1 to win the national championship, and St. John's is 90-1. I know it's at St. John's, it's at the Garden, but I mean, UConn should be, based on those odds, I don't know, at least 4, at least. So if that's the case, look, I don't care what it is, I'm taking St. John's. Because if they beat and look, it's going to be at home, they have to take advantage of it. And if they truly are going to be that team that I think they're going to be, then this is more than likely the game that's going to do it, because none of these other Big East games are going to matter until they play at UConn again at the end of February. This is it. It's just the UConn games. And that, so again, so this is why, if you think of St. John's as a possible one of those teams, look, I even think taking the Final Four is a really good idea. And that's something that I probably will do myself. I haven't done it yet. I've been so infatuated by the 90-1, but I will probably do that by next week's show. I'll probably add St. John's in their Final Four odds because at 90-1, it's still going to be very good. And again, I should have done that already. So I propose that if you like St. John's to win the championship, do the Final Four. So anyway, and then what happens if they win? Well, I think they'll get the recognition that they finally deserve because, again, I do think they deserve it. Also, Illinois. Wow, what a big win over Purdue. That one was not expected last week. But when you have a player that comes out and is absolutely unconscious and has one of the best games of the year, all you can do as a handicapper is bow your head and say, good job. Nothing I can do. And that's what happens. Purdue going through a rut right now. Now, look, I went ahead, took Purdue in the Illinois game, felt that after a couple losses that this would be the perfect game with a key player out to take advantage of it. They didn't do that. What I didn't like was we had them at 3. The line ballooned to 6 in less than 24 hours. I didn't understand that. I was like, 3 is good. 6? And then Illinois beat them, upset them. Then Purdue goes to Indiana a couple of nights later, and I was looking at that game, and I had already gone against Indiana twice this year on Indiana's home court. I had Nebraska beating them, and I had Iowa beating them, and I made out really well in both of those games because things just haven't worked so far for Indiana. There's still talent there. There's still time. And then with Purdue coming in town, it was like, wait a second. I've got a team on a 3-game losing streak now going to Indiana. Could this be it? Could this finally be the game that Indiana needs? And it was almost like if you don't win this one, then I don't know what kind of season Indiana is going to have. And I expected Indiana to beat somebody at some time, and I felt that was the perfect game. And I went with Indiana, and it paid off. But Illinois is and look, Purdue, look, I took them at a much lower price. I just didn't expect they'd lose 3 straight. Illinois, though, I don't really look at them as a serious national championship caliber team. There's also say what you will. I know there's a lot of European players on the team too. But they actually have a pretty good thing going. They're explosive offensively, and their defense isn't bad. So I just need a little bit more proof with Illinois. But I'm obviously the Purdue game without one of their key players. Let me see if I can get their schedule and see who they're playing here. Coming up. Here we go. Look at this. Sunday at Nebraska. That'll be big. Look, they've already proven that they're a good team with their win at Purdue. To expect them to beat Purdue and Nebraska on the road, that's a little bit too much. So I'm not saying, they got to win that game. All I'm saying is if they can go into Nebraska and win that, now you're a serious national championship contender. I just don't know. Because look, in a span of a week, Nebraska and Michigan State on the road. Then you do have Indiana at home. Then you've got Michigan at home. And then some of these other games won't be easy. UCLA on the road, USC on the road could be tricky, and Wisconsin at home could be tricky too. So there's still a long time for us to figure out Illinois. But they are definitely on the radar right now. 17-1. Yeah. If you haven't wagered on a future yet, I'm still at this point taking Nebraska and Purdue over Illinois, but it's early, and I'm definitely taking Michigan State. I would take Michigan State over all these teams right now, even though I'm wearing the Michigan polo shirt today and taking Michigan tonight. But I've told you the way I feel about Michigan State, and that does not change tonight, even if they lose. And I don't care about the Rutgers game. Other than that, Kansas is interesting. They're 30-1. We're going to get to them in a minute because they have one of our games that we're going to talk about. But they're now this is the team they're playing, Purdue. They're on a roll now, and I think Saturday's game will tell us whether or not they can be a serious tourney team. We know how well coached they are, so we know they're dangerous. But that starts getting any lower than that, and I want nothing to do with Kansas. But at 30-1, I was actually thinking about it. I put Iowa State in there, as you saw, but I was like, I need more proof. I just do, because they're a young team. Half of their players are freshmen. They're led by one of the super freshmen in the country, and that's just a lot to ask. But they are on a roll now, and I just look. It's one of those things where I need him to win, but I can't see those odds drop. So it's just a team that you know what? I don't know if Big 12, we know how good it is, so I don't know whether or not they can go on a long roll anyway. Even if they beat BYU, I'm not so sure that they could make that type of a run that just moves that number down so low that it's like, okay, if you beat me, you beat me. I don't know. I still think there's a chance to put them in the mix, in the portfolio, but not right now. Texas Tech, I've seen some places down to 25, 30-1. I mean, what's going on? What do they have to do? I mean, okay, fine. Why am I complaining? I got them, and I should just keep buying more stock. And of course, we had them against Houston last week. So they come back. They split the series against Houston. They've beaten Duke. I mean, we're going to get to them in a minute. They're still the most look, Texas Tech and St. John's. Those are the two best value championship futures team. Texas Tech, without doubt, number one. I'm just it boggles the mind why they're still at that number. UCLA, we're going to talk about them in a minute. And look, I like them. I got them on the list. I need to see them win these types of games, like Indiana, though, and I think they can do it. Again, remember that they've had some time recently without one of their top players. So, but they still were able to beat Purdue without their that said player. So, I think they're going to be better and better. And that's a team that if they get on a run with the system, the way that they can play defense, they could be a very dangerous tourney team. And of course, with their coach. Okay, so that's a run through the futures. Now let's throw up the picks. All right, and here they are now we'll start off with tonight. Michigan has not lost yet on the road. Of course, they lost that game to Wisconsin. Michigan State, meanwhile, we told you what happened in the game against Rutgers. They've beaten Michigan 4 straight, and that's the reason we're taking Michigan tonight. I just think that, and I think did we see that they have to be playing home and home? I mean, that's just got to be a yearly thing, right? Michigan State, home and home. I'd be surprised if there wasn't a home and home. Let me see. When are they playing again? So Michigan will be playing. They got the Ohio State home and home coming up. Oh, Duke. Wow. Where did that come from? Michigan is playing Duke on February 21st. And they're doing it 4 days after they play at Purdue. Okay. All right, there's the home and home. It's the last game of the regular season. All right. They've got a lot of tough games coming up. So we will really find out about Michigan the rest of the way. The Ohio State game won't be easy, but they're going to be at Duke unless that's at a neutral site. Let me see. Does this tell you whether it's a neutral site? Oh, it is. It's in, I guess it's what? Is that DC? So, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Neutral site. All right. But anyway, the schedule is really going to get tough for Michigan. So Purdue, Duke, Illinois, Iowa Road, Michigan State twice. So that's why I was just saying, if you like Michigan, wait, because with this schedule, they could lose 2 out of 4 at some point. And that now all of a sudden you're getting 7-1. Who knows? So wait for that. Okay. So getting back to the game, and what's that? Where is it? Okay. So we've got a situation here where you have maybe the best team in the country at this point, Michigan, only a 1-point favorite. And like I've said many times before, it's about value, and that's the main reason I'm taking it. I'm basically getting a pick'em game with the best team in the country, and they're playing a rival which they have lost 4 straight. Now, it's not like the old days where these players have seen each other for the last 3 years and it's different. You got a North Carolina player, a UAB player, and an Illinois player that have never played Michigan State wearing Michigan colors. So I get it, but they understand rivalries. Of course, I'm sure, heard it for days with this game, and they know what's coming. Now, what will be interesting is that because Michigan State has beaten Michigan straight straight up and against the spread, by the way, all by double digits, that what we're going to find out here is Michigan State, is it too early in the season still where this is actually, Michigan State is going to show us that it's better to have cohesion. They've got 4 key guys back from last year versus Michigan, who I just mentioned, that their top 3 players, or 3 of their top players, were transfers. So these are completely different ways that these teams come into this game. Michigan State is also one of the better defensive teams in the country. Not a surprise with Tom Izzo, but that doesn't mean that they're a great defensive team every year. It depends on personnel, and he's got that going for him. Yeah, this is going to be, again, for this, to me, it's value. It's best team in the nation. One of, pick them basically, and a little bit of payback. 4 times payback coming. Look, I can see both of these teams winning on the road. I really can, because I'm not so sure Michigan's going to sweep Michigan State. So it's kind of like what I'm going for. Is I'm going for maybe Michigan will win this one. And I might just take Michigan State to win the game at Michigan. We'll see what happens. We got a month to go for that one. All right. And then we've got the Texas teams, Texas Tech and Texas A&M. I'm just going to keep taking Texas Tech if they're in these positions where the lines are relatively low, and I can take the money line if I want. I can parlay with the money line too, which I've done before. You know what I like doing is, like we were talking about a game a couple of weeks ago. The setup I like the most is when you have 1 game early and 2 games late. Okay, so I'll do a 3-team parlay with 1 game early and 2. So what I did that week, I had Florida at Vandy, and I had them straight. And then I also did Florida parlay with San Diego State money line against New Mexico and St. John's against Villanova. And I don't know, I think that was money line too, I think it was St. John's. And so that setup was perfect because I was able to do the parlay, and it was just made it easier to do the money lines. And it wasn't a big vig on a straight wager. So what happens is, if the first team wins, that sets up everything perfect for you, because now you've got the parlay with the money lines, which is great. And they were both playing at the same time. Okay, now this is also important, because if they are playing at the same time, then it's one of those deals where you don't have to wager on both games straight now, because that would make kind of no sense. See, I think there are some people who will never bet parlays, and I get that. Strategically, I can see and understand why they would rather not. But when you do, these are the ones that work out and I think make the most sense. And I just gave you the reason there for the money line, but also because, well, why would I need to do straight wagers now? I already have a parlay with these 2 teams with the money line. So if I go ahead and now I just do 2 straight bets, okay, and they both win but don't cover, say, well, I've just thrown money away. Or let's say I split. Well, I've split. I didn't make any money. And if they both cover and win, well, I already had a parlay. So the only thing I could really do, like, there were 2 or 3 things that could be bad and only 1 thing that could be good. So at that point, it makes no sense. Just sit back, take the 2 teams to go together, and of course, I already got my win anyway from earlier in the day. So I that's what now again, that doesn't really work out, Now, what I could do is, because I got Michigan tonight, as long as the book that I use will give me games tomorrow. Sometimes I can get that, sometimes I can't. But if I could, I would. That would make it easier as well. If not, then I could do Texas Tech and Texas A&M early, because they're both playing early, and then I could do UCLA at 5, or I could do St. Mary's at 10:30 and do that. Same thing. Again, there's a 2. It's the other way. I'd rather have it the other way. I'd rather have it the one game. But what I could do is I could do Michigan with Texas Tech and Texas A&M. I like that better. That's what I can do. And then this way, again, if I can do it, and it would be the same thing. I've got Michigan. If they win, now I don't have to take. Now what I could do is I could do the money line tomorrow. But you know what? I think that Texas A&M line is going to go down by tomorrow. And I'm kind of surprised by that. If you look at it, you've got a Texas A&M team that is playing their best ball of the year. Okay, they've won 9 out of 10. The only loss during that time was an overtime loss to Tennessee on the road. Okay, that's how good they're playing. They've covered 6 straight. Okay, they're also 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread as a dog this year. They have beaten Georgia 6 straight times since the 2020 season, covering 5 of those 6. Georgia is not playing their best ball of the year. They're 3-4 in their last 7. So this is just a home line. That's all it is. And Georgia got off to a better start than Texas A&M this year. So they're still playing with some house monies per se, where Texas A&M, they've got the rookie coach from Samford. They didn't play anybody in the offseason schedule, and they've just not been noticed. But they have slowly started to put this run together. And maybe, again, when we said at the Open, some teams, especially when you have a new coach and a new system and a lot of new players, it's going to take time for you to start gelling. A&M is starting to gel right now. And I really believe A&M is a Sweet 16 caliber sleeper if they can continue to play this ball the rest of the year. I felt that way before the season began, that I'm going to keep an eye on this team. And if they can, at this point in the season, if there's something I like, and I do, now, can they make a run to the Final Four? I don't know about that, but I'm willing to see how things go. Let's see how they go for the next couple of, maybe the next week. Maybe that's the next step. But I really like Texas A&M in this spot. Also, the 13-7 ATS on the season. Georgia just 7-11 in their last 18 ATS. So that's why I think Texas A&M is a good play. Now, Texas Tech, like I said, I'm just going to keep taking them when I feel they're going to get disrespected. I don't know how much they're being disrespected in this game line-wise, but I do think by a couple points. I think this should be a 5-6 point favorite. So 3 is not a lot. It puts me right back into that where it's close enough for the money line as well. They've won 9 out of 10. They've won 7 out of 9. During the stretch, they've beaten Houston and Duke. The only loss at Houston, in which they led in the second half. They have 5 straight wins as well. And throw in the BYU win, too. They also beat BYU. Duke, BYU, Houston, they've beaten during the stretch. UCF, meanwhile, they continue to look. They've got the Kansas win, and that win shows everybody that they can be a dangerous team. And they hung around with Arizona, even though Arizona had a double-digit lead, 10, 11, 12 for a long time in that game. And then it just went down late to 7. So it looked more respectable, but it kind of was respectable, all things considered, because UCF is not Arizona. They're on the same stratosphere. But Johnny Dawkins' team is having a very good year. They're 16-4. The thing is if you throw the Kansas win out, there's not much else. They're just beating Colorado, Arizona State. They're winning those types of games. And you got to give them a lot of credit because they've won a lot of games. But they've also lost to Iowa State by 30. And as I mentioned, Arizona. But that Kansas win, That's the win that's going to make teams like Texas Tech watch out. Now, how about Texas Tech? Are they going to, now that they're on this run, could this be a trap type game for them? Is this a game to worry about? At 3, no. Look, if they were a 5 or 6 point favorite, I might not even take the game. I'm not taking every game Texas Tech is playing, only if the line makes sense. And I just think the line makes sense. San Diego State getting 5. I really like the fact that I'm getting 5 when you have the two best teams going up against each other from the Mountain West. These are the two. Now, look, the Mountain West is not as deep as it was in previous years because I'm still waiting to see if Boise State can get going here. Now, it's possible that they're starting to do that because they got a big game tonight at Grand Canyon. And Grand Canyon has already had a nice run. I don't think most people expected Grand Canyon to have this much success this early as the new Mountain West Conference member. But they look like they belong right away. And they've beaten San Diego State. They had that big win against the Aztecs last week. So San Diego State, 9-1 in their last 10. That was their only loss. That close loss at Grand Canyon. 1 point. So Brian Dutcher, again, after a slow start, has San Diego State looking like a Mountain West Conference championship contender and a dangerous tourney team. Utah State, meanwhile, Gerard Calhoun comes over last year, 26 wins. Great start for Utah State. And they did sweep San Diego State last year as well. So again, another reason. That's why I said Michigan, and I'm kind of doing this with San Diego State too. They got swept last year by Utah State, so there is some payback there. Utah State's on a 2-2 run in their last 4, and one of those losses was to Grand Canyon by 10. Same situation on the road. They did not come close compared to San Diego State. So, that's important to people. They're also 1-4 ATS in their last 5, and I just think that because of the way the teams are playing coming into this game, and I'm getting 5, which means I should be able to get about 160 minimum on the money line. And I'll jump on that as well, that I think San Diego State's a good play. I expect these types of games between these two teams this year to be nip and tuck, unless, of course, you just have an off night or whatever. But on average, I think these two teams are very evenly matched, and I think they should be very competitive. Now, besides Boise State, you got Nevada, New Mexico, and Grand Canyon. So, but again, Boise's got the game against Grand Canyon. So if they can win the game, I am a little bit surprised it's a 1-point spread Boise, because Boise does have a 3-game winning streak, but they haven't really done anything yet this year. So if they beat Grand Canyon, that'll probably be their best win of the year under the scenario of winning 4 straight. And now they're starting to look like the team we thought they would be when the season began. But Grand Canyon, again, they've already had some big wins. They've beaten Utah State. They've beaten San Diego State. These are the 2 best teams in the conference, in my opinion. So now it's up to Boise State to see if they can do, because if they don't and Grand Canyon beats them, then I don't think Boise has a chance at this point in time for an at-large. They haven't done anything for an at-large so far. And even though Nevada is competitive, I don't think Nevada has done enough yet. So that's why I don't know if they're as deep. I would have to say Utah State, San Diego State, Grand Canyon, New Mexico. Now, if Grand Canyon slips up, because they may have to go on the road now and play some of these tough teams, I haven't looked at their schedule, but if they do and they don't win those games, then I think you may be only looking at a 3-bid league this year. These 2 teams and New Mexico. Where are we? Okay, now, next 3. Kansas is a 4-point favorite against BYU. And look, a couple of weeks ago, I would have jumped all over BYU here. But Kansas is now playing their best ball of the year, as I mentioned. They've won 4 straight up against the spread. Each game, well, the total, I should say, by 69 points. Okay? 69 points they've won, and they didn't beat anybody by 40. So they've just been smoking. I think they have one win by 7. Everything else double digits, 15, 20. Matter of fact, they beat Iowa State by 21 during this stretch. And this is what you can get. This is one of these teams, it looks like, that needed some time. You got some seniors and you got some freshmen, and they need some time to gel. I mentioned Peterson, one of the best freshmen in the country. The thing about Kansas, though, you got to remember, early in the season, they were not looking good. Not only did they lose to Duke, North Carolina, and UConn, they got blown out by Duke, North Carolina, and UConn. So, but now that's why, to me, I think it's worth taking them, because this is the type of game that I think really does decide whether or not they're going to be a serious contender or not, or just a one and done 20 team. So we'll see, but I'm willing to give them a shot. They've covered 13 of 20, so that's good. And BYU is coming off that loss to Arizona. And this isn't one of those situations where, like, what does BYU need to do in this after that loss? I mean, they're going to come down. That was a high that they haven't had all year. They've had some big games, but they're home against an undefeated team, maybe the best team in the country. And they were getting beat up most of the game. And they made a dramatic run late. Had the ball, chance to win. Couldn't do it. I think that's going to take something out of them, especially because, well, what's this game at Kansas? I mean, we beat Kansas the last 2 times we played them. They did. They beat them in 2024. They've only played, I think, twice as Big 12 foes. And BYU beat them both times. So what exactly is BYU getting up for here? They're going to the tournament. I mean, oh, yeah, it'd be nice to, win the Big 12. And yeah, I mean, who really cares about the Big 12 regular season crown? I mean, it'd be nice if you can do it, but it's still too early for these kids to be thinking about that. Yeah, of course, big game, Kansas, we're up for it, right? The emotion is not going to be there. But for Kansas, see, they're going this way. They're on a high. They've got a long way to go. BYU, we're already, everybody knows how good we are. Now, we'd like to be better than that, but we just let ourselves down at home. This was our shot to prove that. Now we have to try to prove it again. I don't know if they're playing Arizona again, but they got to. But this isn't it. This isn't that prove it type game. Also, BYU just 8-12 against the spread on the year. 0-5 in their last 5 ATS. So I'm taking Kansas. Big game, 4-point favorite at home. I'm also taking UCLA, 3-point favorite at home against Indiana, coming off the big win. So I'm 3-0 wagering the Indiana games. I bet against them twice, and I bet for them once. So I'm trying to go 4-0 here. But the reason I like this one, UCLA, they're in a nice run now. They've won 3 straight, 5 out of 6. They got the Purdue win. It's interesting that both these 2 teams are coming in with the big Purdue win. But this is important, all right? For Indiana, you've got Conaway, the guard. He's one of their 3 double-figure scores. And you know what? I don't have any. Let me see if there's, if I got some information on this kid. I think I was supposed to, I think this is something I forgot to do. Yeah, let me see what's his status. Let's see. Tate Conaway doesn't feel ready to go. All right, so it looks like he's not going to play. All right, so that is important. As I said, he's one of 3 double-figure scorers. Look, they beat Purdue, and he didn't play in the game, and they still beat him. But this is now on the road. And like I said, the reason I took Indiana in that game was look, they didn't even have Conaway, but I took it. It was really just because of the way things were going. This is why sometimes it's not just about the stats that we talk about. That's important. But what's also important is you can't handicap anything the way you need to unless you're paying attention and you have an understanding of how the teams are doing over weeks, months since the season began. You can't just pop in, I haven't paid attention to basketball since football season started, and today's my first day, and I'm going to start handicapping, and I expect to do well. Well, because I got good stats. Well, it's not going to happen. On average, you're in trouble. It's going to take a while. You might get lucky. Maybe the things work out luck-wise, schedule-wise, stat-wise. But for the most part, you have to know the feelings of how the teams are playing. And that's why it's always so important. That's why I love to speak with all of our analysts when I'm talking football, NFL, college, because I know, if I had my druthers, I would, and I had a big network, man, I'd be paying all these guys and enough money where I needed them, they'll answer. And I'd be constantly asking them about what's going on and what's the feeling and how are things going, because they know they're with them all the time. That's their team. They understand everything about that team 365. We don't. If we're not fans of those teams, we don't. And so that's the thing. It's that just knowing how the locker room is. How's the mood with the team? That sort of stuff, very important. So that's why the Indiana-Purdue game, that's where that went. But now it's just back to, okay, so Indiana, UCLA, who do I think is better? You know what? I haven't even checked. Let me check, because I didn't, and this is the thing too. I didn't feel like I needed to check UCLA Bruins injury report. All right, let's see how Clark's doing. Close to returning, so we still don't know. Let me put, see, he's missed 6 straight games? Let me put it in his name. Maybe that'll help it. Impending return could shake up. Okay, yeah. UCLA men hanging on. Okay, waiting for his return. So we still don't know. All right. Look, we had no idea if Mikel Brown was going to go last week against Virginia Tech. It didn't seem like it, and then he just played. So maybe Clark plays. It'd be a bonus if he did. But I'm taking him even without him. But if we can get him going tonight, that'd be even better. So. And it's possible he could return against Indiana tonight tomorrow night at 5:00. So I'm taking the Bruins in this one as the 3-point favorite. Again, I just think that when it's said and done, they're just a better team than Indiana right now, especially if they get Sky Clark back. But does the Indiana win over Purdue get them going? Well, we'll see on Saturday. And then St. Mary's and Gonzaga will wrap it up. And this is a nice little rivalry in the West, out in the West. And even though most people believe Gonzaga has been the king for a long time, they haven't. St. Mary's has actually taken that over the last several years. Gonzaga did win the WCC championship game last year, snapping a 3-game losing streak to St. Mary's. So St. Mary's has found a way to go head-to-head with Gonzaga. Now, I like this game because I like the spread. There's an 11-point spread. I think St. Mary's is not a bad idea. The money line as well, whatever it'll be. But Randy Bennett's team is playing the same way that Randy Bennett's teams always play. They're dangerous. They're big. They play defense and rebound. With Gonzaga, for me, this says more about Gonzaga than St. Mary's, which is why I like the spread. So Gonzaga is already without Braden Huff. So we've talked about that previously. He's out. Let's see, he was out mid-January, 4 to 8 week timetable. So we may not even see him until the WCC tournament. And he's their 1A, 1B. Okay. Throw in the fact that Graham Ike, the other 1A, 1B, best player on the team, really, he is. Ankle injury, out the last 3 games. Returning, that's what we're hearing, tomorrow night. Okay, so out 3 games, returning tomorrow night. Okay, that should be good. He'll probably do well, and it'll be a big advantage for Gonzaga for him to return. No question about it. But he has missed the last 3 games. So that should at least still count for something. Hey, a couple of points. I just need to account for a few points here and there when I'm getting 11. Meanwhile, you have a matchup, again, like I said, where one team has actually done very well against Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and they're the team that is getting the big number 11. So I don't see this unless Gonzaga comes out there and EK's return and everybody's on fire and Gonzaga just start to finish. I will say this. I don't see this. See, Gonzaga's been able to win games against other teams this season when it's like halftime, it's close, early second half, it's close. And in the last 10 minutes, because of this talent, it's just too much, it goes from a 5-6 point game to 20. And it looks like it was a blowout the entire game. That's not going to happen in this one. If Gonzaga is going to cover this game, I think you'll know in the first half. St. Mary's needs to either be within a couple of points or leading this game at halftime for me to think that they're going to cover. If Gonzaga is up, if they're, like I said, if they're just firing and everything's great and they're up 10 at halftime, I think St. Mary's in trouble. I think Gonzaga probably goes out, covers, does whatever they did in the first half and the second half. So I think we'll know pretty early if St. Mary's is going to be able to cover this game. But I just think it's disrespectful, getting 11 points. And we'll see, even with EK back. But again, you don't have one of your top players in the entire conference is not here. So what would the spread be if he was here? 15? Come on. See what I'm saying? It's like I don't think they're accounting for that. I just don't see it. I don't see how you're accounting for that when you're an 11-point favorite against St. Mary's. And we're going to find out for sure just how good St. Mary's is. Look, the problem with St. Mary's, and nothing has changed this season because I think they played what? They got beat up by Vandy, which is a bad loss. And they did beat Virginia Tech, which is a decent win. But the Vandy game was a really bad one because those are the types of opponents, of course, they play in the tournament, and they lose all the time too. So the difference between these two programs is that Gonzaga's found a way to look the part in the regular season in the conference and then get to the postseason, and then they're still that same team. But of course, I think there's two reasons why it is what it is. Gonzaga has always just been more talented players on their team. St. Mary's, it's about a system. They're very well coached with that system. And it's mostly, like I said, defense, rebounding, that sort of thing, as opposed to, hey, we've got 3 or 4 guys who can light it up. They just don't. And that's just, it's not going to change. Maybe it'll change a little bit, but I don't know how much money St. Mary's really has to compete with Gonzaga. So even though they got the portal now, the pay for play, I don't know how much that really changes for St. Mary's, unless they happen to have a billionaire donor or something. So yeah, I think, and the other thing is they don't play anybody. St. Mary's always has these like, we'll play Vandy and Virginia Tech. But Gonzaga goes into the November-December schedule, and they're playing like 8 top 20 teams. So I don't know why St. Mary's and Randy Bennett haven't done that. He may look at it and go, well, why should I do anything that's not, everything's working fine now. Look, we're now beating Gonzaga. This is the best we've been with the program. Why should I change anything? But again, shouldn't it be about trying to win in the tournament, try to get to the Final Four? And I think the only way to do that, based on what I've seen with St. Mary's, is you've got to play a tougher non-conference schedule. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Big game tonight. Should be a lot of fun. Great atmosphere. We'll see how that goes down. And then tomorrow we got some other big games. Look, there's going to be a lot of big games coming up in the next month. February, with the NFL season, just one more to go. There's a lot of people who should be paying attention to college basketball by now. And there's a lot of big games to watch. So make sure you do that. Usually you've got Tuesdays are huge. Now they've got the Monday night games of the week. So those are always good. Apparently now we've got Friday night games of the week too, and we know what Saturday's about. And sometimes they'll throw in some Sunday ones too. So we should know, where we can find some of these really good games to pay attention, because now is the time to pay attention. If you haven't yet, and I understand if you haven't yet, but we're getting to February now. So it's time to start paying attention to college basketball. And remember, I was just saying before, you got to have a feel for it. Well, now is the time. If you haven't done that yet, start now. That'll give you more than enough time to ride your way into March Madness and into the bracket and the biggest event in all of sports. And another topic, of course, will be whether or not the portal has destroyed Cinderellas come tournament time. And 1 year doesn't change anything, but 2 years means we're in big trouble. And that's something that we'll talk more about as we get closer, and especially when we have our bracket special show and we decide who's our Cinderellas and who are we going to predict. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm probably going to stay away from Cinderellas this time around, because I don't want to get beat up like I got beat up last year. And I'm just going to look at it as a hedge. I'm going to hedge against it. Meaning, if I go with like 90% of the favorites this time around, and that's what happens again, well, I'm taking advantage of it, and that'll be good. But if they go back and it was just a blip and we got Cinderellas again, then I'm happy. That's what I want. I want to lose. I really do. But hey, I was still able to win the national championship last year with Florida. So it was a win-win anyway. It's a win-loss, actually. So I'd rather have a win-win. Let's pick the national championship team, and let's get some Cinderellas back. So have a great weekend, everybody. I know there's a big snowstorm. Matter of fact, it might even be snowing right now. If I opened up my shades there, we're expected 4 to 8 inches in my area here in Western Carolina. So I know there's a lot of that going around on the East Coast. So hope everybody stays safe, and we'll see you again. Our next video will be on Monday. I think we have a Monday show. Just keep in mind, we're doing NFL team previews. So we have usually 2 to 4 a week. We've already done about 8 or 10. We did our first mock draft this past. We'll do another one in a month. So we're not doing those every week. But we had the Arlads scouts, Dave Syvertson and John Cooper. That's available on the site as well. So you can check that out. First round mock draft. So, and you got the Senior Bowl on Saturday, Senior Bowl game on Saturday. It's Senior Bowl week, the East-West game. So we're really getting into wall-to-wall free agency and the draft talk for the NFL and college football. So that's still, even with college basketball, and we're starting NASCAR. We did it last Tuesday. We're going to be doing the Daytona 500 preview real soon. And then we've got horse racing is picking up again with the Kentucky Derby prep races. That one of them that's on Saturday. We just did that yesterday. And our golf show that we do every week. So golf, NASCAR, horse racing, that's starting to come back into full swing. College basketball, of course, here, and everything going on in football too. So there's more than enough things going on in sports to keep me busy, and I hope to entertain you guys as well. So once again, as you can see by my little friend there, like, subscribe, all the cool stuff. Hope you do that, and we'll see you next time right here on ProLine TV.